We're learning about rapport building and building relationships between the teacher and the students, and then between students as well. And if you read the 4 articles and you read the textbook, then I'm certain that you're getting a comprehensive review on all of the reasons why rapport building and relationships are so important. And I think you're also getting a good dose of lots of ways that you could build rapport with students. This presentation is really based on things that I did when I was teaching in my own classroom in middle school, and that some of them I continue to do as a school bus driver in order to build relationships with students. And before we begin, I would like for you to go to Padlet.com. You might decide to download the Padlet app on your device. That would be one way to do this activity. Or you can just go to the address you see at the bottom, Padlet.com/Steve Ward UCA / and then a whole bunch of letters and numbers. Or if you have a device like a phone that has a QR reader app on it, you can just scan the QR code that you see there. And what I'd like for you to answer is, how will you build rapport and relationships with students and between students? I'd like for you to just start out this presentation by naming 3 specific ideas or ways that you planned to build rapport, or that you already build rapport with students in some part of your life. I really don't want you to research or look up ideas. I'd like for you to just tell me what you are thinking or what you've been doing. Here's what Padlet looks like when you go there, and there's a pink plus button in the bottom corner of your device, and that's what you'll press. There'll be a space where you put in a title, and where you see the title, if you'll put in your name, and then below that you'll put in your comment, and then you'll post it. And as all of us contribute to the Padlet, then you'll be able to read what other people are doing or what they believe will be most effective for them to do in building rapport. If you're the first one to do this, then you only see my model at the top. Now, I've only named 1. I'm asking you to name 3. And then, and we'll say that student interest inventory is sort of off the table. You'll come in and you'll name yours, and then you can come back later on and take a look at what everybody else has added. So pause this screencast and please do your Padlet post. Make sure that you use your name in the title. Come back when you're done and we'll talk some more. So I'm going to present to you 25 different ways that you can build rapport. Some of these I'm sure that you've heard about, and I'm going to talk about each of them briefly. When school starts, that first year of teaching or as an intern, probably the most initial way that you can begin to build rapport with students is simply just meet and greeting students. I think it's a great idea for you to be standing at your classroom door when your students enter so that you can say hello to them. And they won't all stop to talk to you, and that's probably a good thing because you'd have some sort of bottleneck develop. But just simply meeting and greeting students each day. It's important that you smile when you do this and that you seem approachable. So a teacher that's deep inside planning and preparation and not really looking up at who's coming in the room and who seems preoccupied is not approachable. So this will be a challenge to make sure that everything's ready for your day and that you can stand at or near the door as students enter, and you can try to greet them and welcome them to the classroom each day. Maybe notice some things about them. It's an opportunity for you to talk with them. And that brings us to the next 3, which are simply to talk to students and listen to students and ask questions of students. I learn the most from my bus students when one of them happens to be sitting near the front of the bus and I have a chance to talk with them. Sometimes we're stopped at a school, so we're parked and I don't have to have all my attention on the road, and that gives me a chance just to strike up conversations with students. You will most often have to be the initiator of these conversations. I did not find as a teacher and don't find as a school bus driver that all students initiate conversations with me. There's always some that love to talk, and they'll tell you everything about themselves and their families and sometimes some things that concern you. But generally, I had to be the initiator and ask simple questions. How are you? Did you have a good weekend? How is school going? Tell me about one of your classes. Anything like that at all just gets the ball rolling so that they see you as an approachable adult who's interested in them. And at the bottom, I have a couple of icons for you A student interest inventory is a great way to start the year. This is just could be paper-based or it could be digital. That's the Google Forms app icon. Way to make an interest inventory, which is pretty much just what's your name, some basic, contact sort of information. I used to ask for parents' names, parents' phone numbers, things like that. And then I would ask questions about the student. What's your favorite this? What's your favorite that? Tell me about a favorite teacher from the past. Tell me about a subject that you really loved from the past. On my college student interest inventories, I ask questions like, what should a college instructor never do? What should a college instructor always do? I always ask students about their favorite song, what's the one song they could listen to over and over and over again, because I like music and that just gives us a connection. So you collect all this information and then you hold on to it because sometimes you'll need it. Some students are more difficult to initiate in conversations, so you might have to actually pull that inventory out, look at it, learn something about them, and then that gives you a conversation starter in the future. So a simple student interest inventory, you can look online and find so many different types of these. You don't have to create one of your own, although you can. When I taught school, I did these on paper, but now because of technology, I use Google Forms for mine. You guys actually filled one out for me. That was the survey that you filled out during the first week. And if you don't know much about Google Forms, the beauty of those is when students enter the information and submit it, it flows into a spreadsheet so that you have all the student information in one document. I always ask students' last names separately from their first name, and that's so that I can alphabetize the information when it comes on the spreadsheet by the student's last name. So again, great ways for you to get to know students, simply talking to them, asking questions, and listening to them. You'll have lots of opportunities to go to events at your school. So here we have a picture of what looks like a pep assembly or a basketball game or something like that. Band concerts, choir concerts, art exhibitions, quiz bowl tournaments. There will be lots going on at the school, and you shouldn't try to go to all of it, but you should definitely go to some of it. And when you go, you should be present at the activity and paying attention and looking for students that you know, maybe striking up conversations with them. You'll most likely meet parents and guardians at these events. It's a great time to say hello to them, introduce yourself, and let become more than just a name to them. You're now a face and a name and a nice person that talked to them at the ball game. All very important. So this is something you shouldn't think, well, I may or may not do that. In my opinion, as a teacher, it's required that you go to events, that you show up to some, and you show that you're interested in what goes on with students outside of your classroom. Another great way to build rapport is just to share some things about you, like pictures of your family, pictures of your pets. If you went on a vacation, you can show something about your vacation. This is a great thing to do at the very beginning of the year as you're getting to know students and you're asking them to tell you about their lives. Sharing appropriate parts of your life is a great way to begin. And pictures and images make a big difference. I think that in your area of the classroom, you should have some pictures of yourself and your family or your pets or whatever it might be around. Certain kids will notice those things and they'll ask about them. As you go through the year, if you have children or pets or whoever, you might tell stories about them. I do think there's a limit that you should not just tell stories about yourself all the time and every day, but you can occasionally share interesting stories and maybe give students opportunities to talk about things that happen in their lives with the classroom as well. All of this helps to build that rapport. Here's a picture that I always share with my college students. This is a picture of me in 1990. You can see I'm wearing my Class of '89 t-shirt and my leather Reeboks, and this is me. I lived in a dormitory here at UCA, so I always say, I lived in State Hall. Here's me going up the stairs at State Hall. I was once a student like you. Number 9 is to always model kindness, patience, and respect, even if it's not returned from a student. Even if someone acts in ways that are not respectful to you or to others, your approach to that behavior should always be with respect for that person's dignity, kindness, and patience. If you have not read the How Not to Be a Mountain Troll article, you should read it, because that article specifically addresses students that come from homes where the adults that are around them are not always kind, patient, or respectful, and they often assume all adults are sort of the enemy. And it is your opportunity to show them that grown-ups can be kind, patient, and respectful, even in the face of a challenge. And that would mean when a student really challenges your actions or is disrespectful to you in front of a crowd, or for older students, if they tell you that this assignment is stupid and they just don't want to do it and they think the class is stupid, your approach to them, your response, everyone's watching. And that's an opportunity for you to build rapport with that student. And when other students see that you don't explode and scream, etc., that builds that trust and respect with other students as well. Number 10 and 11 go together, and they're related to what we just talked about. You should always work to preserve student dignity. This often means handling behavior issues privately, which means that you have to make an effort to get closer to them so that you can speak quietly to them. And you just try to never humiliate a student. Their peers are watching and recording everything that happens, sometimes literally recording with a phone, filming. So you don't want to ever humiliate someone in front of other adults or in front of other kids. On my school bus, if I need to talk to someone, I try really hard not to shout at them down the length of the bus. I try to, when we get to a stop sign and there's no one behind me, I motion with my hand, the student walks up to me, and I try to talk to them privately. And that's my effort to preserve their dignity in front of their peers, because I don't know what's going to happen after they go and sit down. And then I also work to, if I get upset, and I do get upset and have to work on managing my emotions, I do my very best not to say things that would be humiliating to students, because I can remember teachers that said some pretty humiliating things to me. I know that teacher's name, I remember the grade, I remember the details, because those things get stamped into our memories and they're not pleasant. So it's very important that you work not to become that person for a student of your very own. Number 12 and 13, related to the past two sets. In the face of these discipline challenges, you're going to do your best to remain calm. Breathing is the key to remaining calm, and often keeping your mouth shut while you think about the right thing to do or the right thing to say. There really aren't that many emergencies in teaching. And occasionally someone throws up, or occasionally there's a fight, or someone says something really inappropriate to someone else, and it needs to be addressed rather quickly. But there's still time for you to just look at a student and give them a blank stare. We'll talk about this in later weeks. And I'm not trying to get ahead of us and talk about discipline now, but I do want you to understand that the way that you discipline students, when, how, to what extent you try to preserve their dignity and remain calm in front of them, those things impact your rapport level with students and your relationship with that student and all students. So rapport, relationships, and the way that you handle discipline, they're closely tied together. Number 14, as students make improvements, you should notice that and you should note it. You always seem to have a group of students that just do everything the way they're supposed to do it. And it's important to note and notice their accomplishments. And then there's a middle group of students that they do okay and they put in some effort, and if you can catch them putting in some extra effort, you really notice and note that. And then there's always a group of students that seem to not care, and their actions would say that they aren't interested in your subject and they aren't interested in learning. Those kids are difficult to motivate because often there's no one at home pushing them to try to do more and achieve more and learn more. So when those students make any kind of effort, it's important that you notice it and you note it. But I will say this, some students do not like their achievements to be noted publicly. So do be cautious about making announcements about student achievements in front of the whole class, or putting up a piece of student work for all to see when you haven't asked that student's permission, because this can destroy your rapport with a student. One of my kids had a teacher in the past that thought he was a great writer and would use his writing not as a model necessarily of here's a great job. It was more like to rub other people's noses in their own work that was not strong. He actually stopped working as hard for that teacher, so it demotivated him and he lost respect for that person. So you've got to be a professional. You do need to notice and note improvement, but you also need to be careful that you're not publicly humiliating student inadvertently by touting all their achievements.